Let's talk about Class Gulf or Class G airspace. Class G airspace is the uncontrolled, governed free that is void from air traffic control jurisdiction. So again, if you hear uncontrolled, think Class Gulf. If you read that on an FAA written exam, think that as well. Class G airspace exists wherever Class Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, or Echo does not. So you're not going to see it. Usually, you're not going to see it on chart. But if you kind of visualize that 3D image of the airspace in that area, wherever those airspaces are not, that's where Class Gulf is. And we'll do some examples, some visual aids on that. Practically, it starts at the surface and extends up until it hits Class Echo airspace, which is either at 700 feet or 1200 feet, unless it's those areas, those dashed magenta Class Echo airspace areas where Class Echo goes all the way to the surface. But if Class Echo doesn't go all the way to the surface, then you're going to have Class Gulf, Class G, up until the Class Echo, which is either at 700 if, again, you're on one side of the shaded line, and then 1200 AGL if you're on the other side of the shaded magenta line for Class Echo. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go back to our example of that Class Echo where, remember, there's no dashed line inside the around this Class Echo. So there's no area where the Class Echo goes all the way to the surface. So we have this kind of area below. And then we also have over here, right? This area below that goes up to 1200 feet. So that is where Class Gulf is located, everywhere that Class Echo is not. So in this area up to 1200 feet, down here from the surface up to 700 feet. All right, so that's where Class Gulf, it kind of fills in the void. There are usually no specific markings for Class Gulf airspace, like I mentioned on a chart, but sometimes it is depicted. It is sometimes depicted when it is not the standard, kind of underneath the Class Echo. In these areas, unless otherwise marked, Class Gulf extends from the surface to 14,499 feet, with Class Echo starting above it at 14,500 feet. So let's see what that looks like. It's going to be it's going to be marked with a thick blue shaded line or by a thick blue treaded line. So there's kind of two different types, just to confuse you even more. So here's that kind of thick blue shaded line in this like isosceles triangle type shape we got here. So inside, Class G goes all the way up to 14,499 feet. And then Class Echo would start at 14,500 feet inside this triangle here. Outside, right, it's just normal. Class G is underneath the Class Echo. So I'm guessing, right, that this is in an area where it's on the 1,200 feet Class Echo line. So Class Echo starting at 1,200. So Class G would be below that outside of this. All right, and then these kind of blue treaded lines. These tell you, so that the shaded blue tells you Class Echo starts at 14,500 feet and you have Class G below it. These treaded lines tell you it's not 14,500. It's specifically going to be listed here in these two areas. So the 4,000 MSL and the 9,000 MSL. So let's kind of just decode what we're seeing here in this example. So inside this shaded blue, we have Class E floor at 14,500 feet MSL with Class Echo or Class Gulf below it. And then in this shaded area here and everything over here, obviously we have a restricted area as well, but the Class E floor starts at 4,500 feet MSL, just like our last example with Class Gulf below it. But then we have this area that is not inside, it's not inside the treaded blue and it's not inside the shaded blue. So that's just going to be kind of normal. Class Echo starting at 1,200 feet AGL, right? It's on the solid side of this magenta line. And so normal Class Echo stuff, right? And then kind of the third section we have here, well, there's a third and fourth section, is kind of inside this treaded line. And what this tells us is that Class E floor starts at here, and then Class Gulf would be below that. And then again, we have a 9,000 foot kind of triangle here, which Class C starts at 9,000, whatever that's listed. Now, this is a rare case, but it is something you might see. And this is what it means. It's just telling you different starts of the Class Echo airspace. I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe it's this wildlife refuge. Maybe it's these military areas, probably something to do, a combination of both. Kind of funky, but it's always going to have to do with the traffic in the area. So it's probably, the military, aircraft and things like that. All right. Now let's talk about Class Gulf weather minimums. These are the most difficult to remember because there's so many variations. All right. So first, we have at or below 1,200 feet AGL in the daytime. That's going to be a visibility of at least 1 statute miles and clear of clouds. So this is kind of a new combination. This would be 1 COC, right, in our shorthand for this. Then we have at or below 1,200 feet AGL at night. Okay, so the first one is day. Next one is at night. It's going to be 3 statute miles, and then it's going to be our 152. 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, 2,000 feet horizontal. Then you have at or below 1,200 feet AGL at night and within half mile of an airport in the traffic pattern. When you're that, then the minimums go down and it goes back to 1 statute mile clear of clouds. So again, that 1 COC. Class G above 1,200 feet AGL, but below 10,000 feet MSL in the day, that's going to be 1 statute mile and 152. So now we have, again, a new variation of 152, just to confuse things more. Then we have above 1,200 feet AGL, but below 10,000 feet MSL at night. So same thing, but now at night. That's going to go back to the 152. And then you have at or above 10,000 feet MSL day or night, and that's going to be 111, which we had seen before.